Hello aspirants, welcome to Epitome IAS. This is Mansoor. So, as a part of this NCRT series, already we have completed class 6 geography NCRT, and in today's class we are going to see class 7 geography NCRT. So, if you see the title of the book, this particular class 7 geography textbooks, it talks about our environment. That means in this class 7, we will be reading about, we will be knowing more about environment. And the point to be remembered here is, see, in 6th class, 7th class, 8th class, you will be knowing only the basics, or you will be knowing only the definitions of the basic fundamentals. Okay. And here you cannot, or you should not expect more detailed concept on these particular topics which we are going to discuss in these particular chapters. Okay, right. So if you see this chapter class 7 NCRT, totally we are having 10 chapters. In this first chapter talks about environment, and in this chapter we will be seeing the basic definition of environment and what are the things that were present in environment, and are there any non-living organisms which were called as an as a part of environment. We will be seeing the basic definitions that were given in NCRT book. And in chapter 2, we will be seeing inside our earth. So basically in 6th class NCRT, we have seen that earth is having layers. In that we understood that the outermost layer is called as crust, the innermost layer is called as core, and the layer which is between the crust and the core is called as mantle. So there we have seen the basic differences or basic definitions of the layers that were present in the earth. So in this chapter as well, we will be seeing what are the things that were present inside our earth. Okay. And in third chapter, we will be seeing our changing earth. That means, if you see, during the formation of the earth or in early days of the earth, and if you compare that particular time to the modern time or this particular time, you will be noticing that there are different changes that underwent on the earth. Okay. So in this particular chapter, what we will be seeing is, so what is the agent or what is the reason behind the changing of the earth? Okay. Here we will be reading about two main forces, that is endogenic force as well as exogenic force. Okay. And in chapter 4, we will be reading about air. That means we will be reading, we will be knowing or we will be understanding about atmosphere. And in chapter number 5, we will be understanding about water, that is hydrosphere. And in chapter number 6, we will be seeing a natural vegetation and wildlife that is present in India as well as in the world. And chapter number 7, we will be seeing human environment settlements and transportation as well as communication. And in chapter number 8, same human environment interactions. Here we will be seeing two major zones, that is we will be reading about the tropical and subtropical regions. Okay. If you remember, if you recollect, in chapter in class 6 we have seen that earth was divided into some different zones depending upon the temperature. So we have seen that from Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn, the zone which is present in between these two latitudes, we call that particular zone as tropical zone. And the area between Tropic of Cancer to the Arctic Circle, between these two latitudes, we call that particular zone as temperate zone. In the same way, in southern hemisphere as well, the zone which is present between the Tropic of Capricorn to Antarctic Circle, we call that particular zone as temperate zone. Okay. And the zone between Arctic Circle to the North Pole, in the same way, in southern hemisphere, the zone between Antarctic Circle to the southern hemisphere, we call that particular zone as polar zones. And we understood that depending upon the temperature, we have divided these zones. Okay. So in this particular chapter number 8, we will be knowing about the tropical and subtropical regions. We will be knowing how human interactions, how human environmental interactions were happening in this particular zones. And in chapter number 9, we will be seeing life in temperate grasslands. Okay. So in chapter number 10, we will be seeing the life in deserts. Okay. So this is the summary of the chapters that we are going to see in NCRT 7th class geography. Okay. Right. So without any further delay, if you move on to the first chapter, in this first chapter, we are going to see what is meant by environment, and in this particular chapter we discuss about the basic definitions of environment. Okay, so first of all we should understand that what is meant by environment. So environment is nothing but everything that is surrounding us. For suppose, let us take there is an human being. Let us take there is an human being. Let us take you are standing on a road, or you are standing on a ground, or you are standing on a building, whatever it is. The area or the surroundings around you, either it might be plants, it might be roads, it might be any animals, or it might be any physical structures like mountains, plains, plateaus, rivers. So all those things which are surrounding around a organism or around you, that particular zone or that particular thing is called as environment. So if you see in this textbook, he has mentioned that environment is a basic life support which is present on the earth. Are you getting my point? And here the point is, this environment includes both man-made things as well as natural things. The point here is, this environment includes both man-made things as well as natural things. Okay. So if you see here, what are man-made things? For suppose, see, human beings has a tendency, or we have a tendency to restructure the environment as per the needs of people. For suppose, in olden days we are not having any buildings. In olden days we are not having any roads. We are not having any sophisticated things. But nowadays what we are doing, using this technology, we are converting that environment, or we are converting our surroundings into some other thing. For suppose, in earlier days, majority of the roads that on which we are going, those roads were not existed. We only have forests, we only have rivers, and we only have some other natural things. But what we are doing, we are cutting all the natural things, or we are cutting the forests, and we are laying roads. So that means we are converting the natural environment for human use. Okay. So in that way, we can tell that environment is made up of two things, one man-made things, one natural things. And now the point here is, even in man-made things or even in natural things, we can see two type of organisms. What are they? One, living organisms. Second one, non-living organisms. Okay. Living organisms and non-living organisms. So if you see here in this book, what he is saying is, all the living organisms or all the living organisms that were present in the nature, those living organisms are called as biotic things. And all the non-living organisms or all the non-living elements, those elements are referred as abiotic. Now the point here is, what is the example of biotic thing? As I told you earlier, biotic is nothing but all the living creatures or all the living things. So in example, we can say that human beings are biotic things, and plants are biotic things, and animals can be taken as an example of a biotic thing. Then what about abiotic things? As I told you earlier, abiotic is nothing but those organisms which doesn't have life. Example, roads. Example, mountains. Example, rivers. All those things are abiotic things. Okay. Right. So that is what mentioned in this book. Now we understood that environment is environment is nothing but it consists of all the things that were made, manually made or naturally made. Now we understood that in naturally made elements as well, we are having biotic as well as abiotic creatures. Now, in this book, he has mentioned that there are certain components of environment. So we can tell with our own common sense that environment is having certain components. So what are those components that were mentioned in this book? The author is saying that natural components is a part of environment, and human made things are also a part of environment, and humans are also the part of environment. In this book, he has divided the components of environment into three. One, natural components. Second, human made components. Third, humans as a component. And in natural component, we already know that air, water, land, and living things, that is biosphere. Or if you want to talk in terminology, if you want to talk in geographical terminology, we call this air as atmosphere, and we call this water as hydrosphere, and we call this land as a lithosphere. So what does that mean? Hydrosphere, atmosphere, lithosphere, all these things are natural components. Okay, these are natural components of environment. Then human made components. I told you earlier that buildings, roads, bridges, industries and monuments, all these things were humanly made, and these things are also the part of components of environment. Now, the third type of component which was given in this particular picture is humans. Obviously, humans are also the part of or components of environment. Either he might be an individual human being, he might be a family, he might be a community, or either a religion or educational thing or economic thing or a political situation. Whatever it is, everywhere this division which he is given in this book, it is talking about or it is related to humans. So in a single word, we can tell that environment has three different components. One, natural components. Second, human made components. Third, humans as well. Okay. Now, what is meant by lithosphere? In class 6, we understood that lithosphere is nothing but the solid portion of the earth. And we understood that this lithosphere was, very important for survival or very important for existence of life. Okay. Then what is meant by atmosphere? Atmosphere is nothing but a gaseous chamber that is surrounding the earth. That particular gaseous chamber or that particular chamber where all the gases were present, we represent that particular chamber as an atmosphere. And what is meant by hydrosphere? All the water domain that is present on the earth is called as an hydrosphere. Okay, these definitions we have seen in class 6 of geography NCERT. Okay, and now what we have to see is, right, in next paragraph he is mentioning about a natural environment. So what is a natural environment? Obviously, everything, as I told you earlier, natural environment consists of water and atmosphere, air and land. So in simple terms, we can tell that lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere, all these three comprises, and these three things were called as a natural environment. And now the thing is, there is a zone where all these three will be coincided, and that particular zone we call it as an biosphere. So biosphere is that zone where we can find hydrosphere, where we can find atmosphere, where we can find lithosphere. Okay, so that particular confluence zone is called as a biosphere, and the probability, the possibility of having a life in biosphere is very high. Okay, right. Now we should understand what is meant by ecosystem. What is meant by ecosystem? Ecosystem is nothing but it is an zone or it is an system which is formed by interaction of all the living organisms with each other and physical as well as chemical factors. That means, see, the zone where all the living organisms will be interacting physically, or will be interacting chemically, or will be interacting with each other. Okay, so that particular zone or that particular system, we call it as an ecosystem. Okay, and the next important point or the next important definition we should understand is the human environment. So what is meant by human environment? The name itself tells that environment which is related to humans. That means, so in the beginning of the class, I told you that in earlier days or in olden days, the infrastructure that we are having is very less. So what happened during the process of evolution, what we have done is, we have transformed or we have changed the natural environment into an man-made environment. That means we are using the raw materials which were present in environment and we are updating those raw materials in order to create new things. Are you getting my point? That means the environment which was influenced by humans is called as an human environment. Okay. So that is what given in this particular paragraph, and this is the story related, is trying to explain how this human environment has been created. So that is what mentioned in this particular chapter. So if you see here in crisp, if you see in this particular chapter, we understood the definition of environment, and we understood the components of environment, and we understood the basic definition of ecosystem, and we understood what is meant by human environment. Okay. So this is the summary of this class 7th NCERT chapter 1. Okay. So I hope you understood this chapter very well, and we'll meet in the next class, and in next class we will be discussing the chapter 2. So thank you so much for watching this video.